I'm Dwayne Brown. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, San Diego's transit agency is saying no to get out the vote ads. A look at their reasons why and why folks behind the ads are crying foul.
And I'm Peggy Pico with what's next for minimum wage earners in San Diego while they wait for voters to decide their fate on the June 2016 ballot. Then smart growth or suburban blight. Supporters and opponents of the One Paseo development plan in Carmel Valley tell us their concerns.
And fraternity culture has been linked to the problem of sexual assault on college campuses. We'll have a look at how some Greeks are trying to change the culture. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Hi, good evening. Thanks for joining us. Just 2 weeks from Election Day, it's a very tight race in one of the most closely watched election contests in the county, the 52nd Congressional District. The newest poll out tonight gives Republican Carl DeMaio a 1-point lead over Democratic incumbent Scott Peters. The survey has a margin of error of just over 4 points, so it's a statistical tie between them. A San Diego coalition promoting social justice took to the streets downtown, just outside the Metropolitan Transit System headquarters. They want MTS to run ads on their buses and trolleys, encouraging folks to get out and vote on Election Day. The November 4th election is just around the corner, and Alliance San Diego is trying to get the word out, especially in communities with historically low voter turnout who use public transportation. But MTS has an advertising policy that prevents the group from placing ads on public transit.
It is capricious and arbitrary the way you're applying your policy.
Rob Shoup, director of marketing with MTS, says they have tightened their ad policy in the last couple of years.
This has nothing to do with the Alliance or their mission to get out the vote. That's an admirable cause, but the ad just did not follow our policy.
The group paid for nonpartisan bus ads with the message "Vote for San Diego" with the date of the election, but Shoup says all MTS ads are limited to a commercial service. That means things that can be bought, sold, or leased.
So that objectionable, what might be objectionable ads to some parties are not on our property and create controversy.
Christopher Wilson with Alliance San Diego says ultimately the decision lies with the MTS, but they did run their ad promoting the 2010 census. Now Alliance just wants to get folks out to vote.
It sends a bad message to the public that at a time where we should be expanding our democracy and getting people more engaged in the civic process and trying to build a better San Diego, that money is more important. And we just think that that's a bad decision.
Alliance San Diego says it will continue its door-to-door campaign to get out the vote. A new round in the battle between SeaWorld and animal rights activists. People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, PETA, says it's filed a complaint against the park with the U.S. Department of Agriculture after a veterinarian found scars and lesions on dolphins and whales at SeaWorld. A SeaWorld vet says marks on marine mammals are common and not a sign of abuse. And a trainer told reporters today, quote, "When there's a stranded animal on the beach, the public doesn't call PETA, they call SeaWorld because they know we have the resources to take care of that animal." This is PETA's third formal complaint against SeaWorld this year. There's a new lawsuit over the children's pool in La Jolla. Advocates there for beach access are challenging a city decision to keep people off the sand during seal pumping season. Now, the beach will be closed from December 15th to May 15th. The State Coastal Commission already approved the plan. A group called Friends of the Children's Pool say they hope a judge will strike down the closure before December 15th. More concerns tonight about rabies in the North County. Health Department is looking for anyone who may have handled a rabid bat just outside the Pizza Nova restaurant in San Marcos on Saturday morning. A group of children found the animal. It did test positive for rabies. Symptoms of rabies may not show up for weeks or even months, but once they do, it's almost always fatal. Anyone who may have been exposed to the bat is urged to call the number here on your screen. This is the second report of a rabid bat in recent weeks. Another one landed on a runner during an event at the Del Mar Fairgrounds earlier this month. San Diego City Council made it official. Mandatory water restrictions take effect November 1st. Now here's a sample of the new rules. You'll only be able to water your lawn 3 days a week, and there are limits to watering times. There are new limits for washing your car as well. You can find more information on our website at kpbs.org. County supervisors are backing the water bond measure on the November ballot. Proposition 1 is a $7.5 billion initiative to fund water projects. Now, the money would be allocated by region, and San Diego County would get about 9%. Opponents of the measure say it's too expensive and won't do much to relieve the drought. The minimum wage debate in San Diego will be decided by voters after City Council voted unanimously yesterday to put the issue on the ballot in 2016. Peggy Pico tells us what happens next.
Nearly 34,000 signatures were gathered to force the City Council to either repeal their minimum wage proposal or put it on the next eligible ballot in June 2016. The Council chose the ballot. Here with what's next are my guests, Rob Nothoff, campaign co-lead for Raise Up San Diego, and Jason Rowe with the San Diego Small Business Coalition. And Rob, let's jump right in here. How will this minimum wage ballot measure actually be different than the ordinance that the City Council passed?
Actually, Peggy, it'll be the same exact ordinance as passed by the Council. It's just simply going to be delayed a little bit. So the way that we're looking at this is it's more or less justice delayed rather than justice denied for the 200,000 hardworking San Diegans who work full-time and yet still struggle to keep a roof over their head and put food on their table.
If the measure passes, how much would it be, the minimum wage increase, and when would it go into effect?
We're still actually looking into that. It's more of a legal question at this point. However, it's our understanding that once it's passed in June of 2016, that the minimum wage would be $10.50 an hour, which is 50 cents over the state.
In Jason, June 2016 is a long way off. What is the Business Coalition going to be doing to keep this alive in voters' minds until then?
Well, I think voter education. I think one of the reasons we're looking forward to a campaign is, there's an opportunity, I think, for a civics education. Right now, in a vacuum, people think this is magic money where the 1% has to dig in a little deeper in their pocket to help the working poor, and nothing could be further from the truth. I mean, this is about the small and medium-sized businesses that are already struggling to get by, that are being asked to pay people more money, which, certainly we want to see people make more money, but that money has to come from somewhere. And so, it's going to go in higher prices, cuts in hours and benefits, or even in jobs, or the closure of businesses. And so we want to explain to people that this isn't something that doesn't affect every San Diegan. It will cost every San Diegan more money.
Well, Rob, a recent independent poll found 63% of voters say they are in favor of raising the minimum wage despite these objections. Why did Raise Up San Diego campaign, why did that campaign fail to keep it off the ballot?
Peggy, I wouldn't even look at it as a failure. I would say that the job was done. As you just stated, 63% of San Diegans actually support this. They understand that San Diegans need the access to 5 days of earned sick leave, and that we should reward hard work. We're America's finest city, and America's finest city should reward hard work and ensure that anybody who works full-time should not have to live in poverty. For instance, we have somebody by the name of Marcus Nichols who works 2 jobs and over 40 hours a week, and yet is still living in his car. And San Diegans understand that we don't want that. That's not the future we want, and that's why they support.
You wouldn't see this as a fail, but you did say that you started this because you wanted to make sure that a small minority of folks, this is your words, weren't able to come in and hijack the local democratic process by putting this on the ballot. Do you think that happened?
Unfortunately, I do. I take a look at what the Chamber of Commerce has done, and I think that big money has played a role in this in really delaying the process and justice for 200,000 hardworking folks who live by the mantra of an honest day's work for an honest day's pay.
And Jason, do you agree with that? So the City Council, elected City Council, they said, here's our proposal, and now it's going to vote. Do you think it's a hijack of the process?
No, I think the hijacking has come from big labor, who has elected the 6 representatives on the council that passed this. This is the 3rd time that group of 6 has passed something that a citizen-led referendum has reversed or referended, because they're doing the bidding of labor bosses and not the bidding of the taxpayers and the residents or the working poor here in San Diego. We've got 45,000 people unemployed. We've got businesses that are struggling to keep their doors open, just coming out of a recession. And this policy, regardless of the rhetoric, would make it more difficult for these businesses to survive, to grow, to create new jobs, to get those non-working people into the workforce, and to create better paying jobs so that people that are on minimum wage today can have a better quality of life tomorrow.
And these opinions are, of course, each of your own, and they will be on our website so people can look further into this. But we are running out of time, so I want to get to this. Jason, why do you think voters will vote against the measure and actually have, I'm sorry, Rob. Jason, let me start with you. Basically, why do you think they'll vote against the minimum wage?
Well, because I think right now they don't understand the economics of it because they haven't paid attention. If they're not affected by it, they think it's somebody else's problem. When they find out it's going to be their problem, I think they'll look at it differently.
And Rob, why do you think they'll support the minimum wage hike?
Because, again, San Diegans understand that we need to reward hard work. And they also understand, as Mr. Rowe pointed out, the civics lesson that we need to really teach is when they've raised minimum wages in other localities like San Jose and San Francisco, unemployment has decreased, job growth has gone up, and we will inject $260 million every year into the local economy, which is great for small business, great for workers, and great for our local economy.
All right, we are out of time. Jason Rowe and Rob Nothoff, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
A UC San Diego landmark will have to shut down after a judge's ruling today upholding the eviction of the Che Cafe. The school says the building needs $700,000 in repairs to stay open. The cafe has been a student-run fixture on campus since 1980 and has hosted hundreds of musical acts over the years. Its operators now have 5 days to clear out. Another San Diego landmark will reopen to the public on New Year's Day. For the first time in nearly 80 years, it's the California Tower at Balboa Park. The Museum of Man is in the middle of a $3 million fundraising campaign to get money for remodeling and safety improvements. They say they've got $1 million already, and the money will also help pay for its upkeep in the future. Cool pictures. Sexual assaults involving fraternities is not a new problem, but as the issue of campus sexual assaults gets more and more attention from the media and lawmakers, fraternity culture is once again under the spotlight. KPBS reporter Angela Carone looks at how some Greeks are dealing with the topic of rape.
We do need to really be prepared that we're going to get a lot higher attendance for this, just naturally, because President Hirschman's speaking at the event, which is amazing.
Every week, a group of fraternity men at SDSU gather to talk about sexual assault. This class is called Frat Manners. The guys volunteer to take it, and they get college credits. Outside of class, they hold workshops to educate their peers. Wesley Episcopo has led plenty of workshops. He's a member of Sigma Phi Epsilon, one of the largest and most popular fraternities at SDSU.
That class is honestly the best class I've ever taken on campus.
Why?
Well, you surround yourself, it's specifically for Greek men. So you've got, friends in your chapter, you've got friends in the other chapters, and it's cool to just bond together and see other members, on the campus who are concerned about this.
They have reason to be concerned. At SDSU, 2 alleged sexual assaults have taken place at fraternity parties since the beginning of September. At Cal State San Marcos, an entire fraternity is under investigation by the school for multiple sexual assault reports. Fraternities compete for pledges. While philanthropy and leadership opportunities are a thread of Greek life, it's the parties that really make the case to potential pledges. Jeff Buckholtz is on SDSU's newly formed Sexual Assault Task Force.
There are still many, many, many fraternities across this country that the recruitment process and the idea of what the fraternity provides is basically access to this brotherhood and camaraderie centered around the idea of partying and really access to women and sex.
There's that big ego part where it's like, oh, you gotta, go out and get laid tonight. Like everyone's like, yeah, go get laid, go get lucky, go have a great time, And I feel like sometimes a lot of the members take that the wrong way.
Then there are the fraternity parties.
Loud noise, dark, lots of people, plenty of alcohol. I mean, that's like whenever someone talks about, a rape situation, they involve those 4 general topics. And if you say those 4 things, it kind of sounds like a fraternity party.
Buckholtz is quite clear on pointing out that your average fraternity man is not a rapist. But frat parties give protective cover, he says, to those who are.
For a predator, that's an incredibly brilliant space to enter because it's less likely that what you're doing is going to stand out enough to look dangerous, to look unhealthy.
Journalist Caitlin Flanagan spent a year investigating fraternities for The Atlantic. Fraternities buy extensive insurance plans to cover injuries that take place at their chapter houses. Flanagan says the second most common insurance claim filed against fraternities is for sexual assaults.
It's almost built into the line item budget of the fraternity industry that they're going to get a huge number of sexual assault claims and that they need to budget appropriately for that.
It's hard to get reliable data on how many sexual assaults take place at fraternity parties. It takes significant courage for a young woman to report a rape involving a fraternity, because then she's in conflict with an entire brotherhood who have sworn loyalty to each other. Episcopo says fraternity members talk about reporting rape in their frat manners workshops. It's always a tough question for them to answer.
If you had a member who you knew raped a girl, what would you do? Would you take them to judicial? Would you send them to the police? Understanding that your chapter at large might be in danger? So,
what did they say?
A lot of people said no, and they would keep it hush hush.
So if fraternity parties are part of the campus sexual assault problem, why don't universities crack down on them?
Because the more supervision and the more control you exercise over the fraternity, the more you establish a legal duty of care. And once you've established a duty of care, when the lawsuit comes in, you're on the line.
Randall Tim, the head of SDSU's Student Life and Leadership, says his office regularly advises the fraternities of the various rules they have to follow. The university has suspended 3 fraternities in the last 5 years for violating those rules. Phil Ortiz went to San Diego State and is a member of the Phi Kappa Psi fraternity. He's a former president of Frat Manners. He believes the group makes a difference because it's fraternity brother talking to fraternity brother about an issue they can do something about.
It's a way for the fraternities to get out in front of the problem and educate their members and educate the community on what sexual assault is and ways to prevent it, and just really empower fraternity men to take responsibility for the environments that are created at their houses.
Tomorrow, members of Frat Manners will be handing out teal ribbons on SDSU's campus to raise awareness of sexual violence. Angela Carone, KPBS News.
Video journalist Nick McVicker helped produce that story. You can find our ongoing coverage of the problem of campus sexual assault online at kpbs.org.
I'm Gwen Eiffel on the next News Hour. For every tech startup that makes it big, scores don't, or become the walking dead. We explore those zombie companies Tuesday on the PBS News Hour.
A proposal to build a new landfill in the North County is back on the table after investors narrowly avoided bankruptcy. The Gregory Canyon project goes back 20 years with 2 ballot measures and $60 million of investor money. Now a new investor has stepped in to resurrect the plans for a trash dump in Gregory Canyon. Opponents say it's not the right place for a landfill. A proposed Southern California desert management plan is stirring fears about the potential impact of a new solar, wind, and geothermal facilities. Now the plan covers some 22 million acres of federal, state, and privately owned land. Joining us to talk about this issue and an update is KPBS reporter Eric Anderson. So this plan has been in the works for several years, Eric. Why the concern now?
Well, Dwayne, the plan has only been available for public review for a pretty short period of time. Federal and state officials worked with the blessing of the Environmental Protection Agency to craft a management plan that allows for speedy approval of new renewable energy plants, while it also protects sensitive habitats and species unique to the state's Mojave and Sonoran deserts. As you can see here, it's a fairly wide swath of land, some 22 million acres covered by the management plan. Under the initial proposal being discussed, about 10% of the region would get a preferred development zone designation. And that means that state and federal rules would be streamlined for solar, wind, or geothermal projects. Much of the land in the area would maintain current protections, and there would be certain areas where projects will be ruled out because of habitat or species concerns.
And what are some of the local concerns?
Well, here in San Diego County, there's a fear that another high-capacity transmission line like the Sunrise Power Link might be built. And in the Imperial County, the land identified as prime land for renewable projects is either currently industrial land or farmland.
And when will this be settled?
The people putting together the plan are currently in the midst of collecting public comment. That'll be accepted through the end of the year. The plan's architects hope to have a final blueprint ready for review sometime next year.
KPBS reporter Eric Anderson. We've also been following the debate over the One Paseo project in Carmel Valley. Its developer calls it smart growth, but some neighbors say it doesn't fit the community's character and will bring in more traffic. Peggy Pico talks with those for and against the project.
The proposed mixed-use living and business development on 23 acres of vacant land near the Del Mar Highlands Town Center in Carmel Valley is headed to San Diego City Council. Here to discuss the vigorous support and vigorous opposition for One Paseo are my guest, Rachel Lang, spokesperson for the project, and Ken Ferensky with the group What Price Main Street that opposes the development plan. Welcome.
Thank you.
Rachel, how many residential and business units are actually included in this plan that's going before the City Council?
So there will be 2 office buildings, there will be a number of shops along a main street, and about 600 homes.
And we're looking at an artist rendition of it. What's the height on these? Are they going to be tall office buildings, tall residential units?
So the office buildings, which are on the lowest point of the project, are the tallest elements of the project. Yeah, they're about 7 to 9 stories.
And that includes the residential part on top?
Oh, no, the residential is going to be on around the...
I see. Okay, so
totally different area.
I wanted to make sure. I saw the rendition. It was a little
No, those
confusing.
are nowhere near as...
All right, and Ken, your group, What Price Main Street, is opposed to the current project as it is right now, but I understand you support a smaller project. What does that plan look like?
We're looking for, we support development at the site. We support a mixed-use project. We're just looking for a mixed-use project that fits within the community, something more like Old Encinitas or La Jolla, something with, retail on the street and maybe a couple of stories of residential above it instead of 5 stories of residential.
Well, Richard, the development plan it has been reduced by 30%, I understand. Right. But the site, Del Mar, Height Road, and El Camino Real, is not zoned for a development this big, I understand. How does Kilroy, the developer, actually plan to get around the zoning issues for approval from the City Council?
Well, this will be about the 29th community plan amendment that Carmel Valley has undergone since the 1970s when its community plan was done. It hasn't been upgraded at all, and as we know, Carmel Valley is a very different place than it was in the 1970s when the community plan was first done. But there was always envisioned that this would be a town center, this area. There would be one town center that you could have a gathering space for the community, and that aims to be this.
Okay, and Ken, you gathered, I understand, about 4,000 signatures from community members who say, no, they don't want this One Paseo built as it's currently proposed. What are their key issues? What are their objections?
The issues are really traffic and community character. The traffic, there's going to be, we believe there's going to be jams of traffic on Del Mar Heights Road, that it's going to be very hard to get to the freeway. Kilroy tells us it's handled, but we're concerned about adding more cars running through. You're still adding 23,000 cars. You still have more cars moving through wider streets. It makes it less safe for people to walk and bike through the community.
Let me have Rachel respond to that, because there is some community infrastructure attached to this
significant. Beyond what we're required to do, we're doing about $10 million in upgrades that will make it more walkable, more bikeable, not just within the project, but to the rest of the community.
What about the traffic, though?
Right, well, so one of the big things we're doing, of course, that we're doing a shuttle to make it so that people can get to the transit until transit actually comes to the site. But the other, and that'll run 3 times a day, the morning, the lunch, and the afternoon. Or the evening rush hour, and also upgrading 40 traffic lights with the most state-of-the-art system that actually responds to current actual conditions.
Now, I saw you, Ken. I'm going to have you also respond to that because you were shaking your head.
Right. Increasing the flow of traffic through doesn't make it safer for pedestrians or bicycles. It just makes it more traffic going through and harder to get across the street. It's timed and everything, but it's still going to be more traffic.
Well, let me end on this for each of you here, and I'll start with you, Ken. One Paseo is exactly the kind of urban multi-use development that developers say, hey, look, this qualifies. It's smart growth. It avoids urban sprawl. It's a good use of resources. What would you see as smart growth for that land?
Right. This is smart growth without transit, and it doesn't fit the community character. The City of Villages plan really called for villages to be unique to its location, to fit within the community. And I would love to see a series of smaller villages along the Route 56 corridor that are reasonable and a couple of miles drawing people in and connected by transit. I'd love to see that.
Rachel, do you see that? Is this something you could compromise with and make this a little smarter for the community members?
Well, we have done everything we could to make it smarter. It's been 6 years in the making, and we've responded to every concern over the years. The project has changed significantly, and it's only gotten better. And, you know, with the Planning Commission's recommendations, it's going to be even more beneficial to the community. So it's going to be a great project for the community, and a lot of people are very excited about it.
We are going to hear a lot more about this as it's headed to the City Council, and there's a lot more on our website, kpbs.org. Rachel Ling and Ken Ferenczi, thank you so much.
Thank you, Peggy.
We've got a bit of a warm-up ahead. Mid-70s expected along the coast tomorrow, reaching the low 80s by Thursday. Low to mid-80s for the inland valleys for the next few days. Mountain temperatures will be mostly in the mid-70s with plenty of sun, and 90s in the desert. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.